attitude that the administration has about this project, as we heard a few minutes ago. They were really on board with proposing through NESCO, through the governors of New England, and working with ISO New England to propose this, to really support it, and to make it a part of Massachusetts' energy future. And that meeting that we had at the State House, I think, really opened some eyes in the administration. And it was soon after that that they began to back off on the tariff. They agreed to do the low impact alternative study that's underway now, and to begin to question whether or not this project made sense in an environmental, public safety, public health perspective, and from the perspective of long-term energy policy. So your efforts on the ground, working through us as your elected representatives, I think have had a huge impact on the administration's view. And that, of course, is an administration that is exiting. All those people, most of them, I assume, are not going to be in office early in January. So in a way, we need to begin the process all over again with the new incoming Baker administration and the people that they appoint in energy and environment. And we'll do that. And we need to have your backing and input, just as we did starting back in January or February and all through the spring and summer. So we want to continue to partner with you and to work as a delegation, because I think our voice is certainly enhanced when we work together on this, and we've been united. No matter what party we belong to or what part of the state we represent, we've really worked very well together on this.
I think that really summed it up as far as I'm concerned. I think we probably became aware of it right about the same time, and since then we've all been corresponding, dealing with all of the players to the extent that we can, trying to gather as much information and to impart as much information as we can, not only to the public but to other people in the administration, and try to work with people in other state agencies to sort of get the answers that we need, and maybe some movement toward resolutions that would be more acceptable to everyone. So I agree with you. We've all been working on this together, and I think it's worked out quite well.
Thank you. Good morning. And I echo the sentiments that Representative Kulik just expressed. I think that meeting in the State House with Secretary Bartlett and the undersecretaries and the folks who had been previously supportive, perhaps, of at least the concept of the need for more energy, without really looking at the specifics. I do think it was a turning point meeting, and I credit all of you and the grassroots support that sprung into action immediately upon this notification in terms of the pipeline. And you know, I know in my district, the first notice I had, it was not from Kinder Morgan, it was not from the government, it wasn't from the governor's office or any of the New England governors about this proposal. It was because someone knocked on a door of some homeowners saying, hey, we're here to survey the land, and without notifying anyone, including the local town hall. And one thing led to another, and it is really critical and important that your participation that got the attention. I will tell you that even after some of the initial town hall meetings were had that we all attended in our respective communities, I would have conversations with some of my colleagues at the State House about this pipeline, and they were totally unaware that there was even a proposed pipeline. So to echo the sentiments that Ken expressed 11 months ago, you know, did we see this? Look what's happened since. But I do think that there was a turning point at that meeting, and I think it did cause people to step back. As legislators, you know, we have been engaged in trying to engage the administration and our colleagues and educate them on this process. And it's absolutely important that we continue with the new administration. So I just wanted to chime in on that. Thank you.
Good morning, and I would echo what Senator Donoghue and Representative Kulik and Harrington have already said, is that I can't thank the grassroots enough and everyone here for organizing this forum and all of your incredible organizing efforts. I know I saw a lot of you at a fundraiser for the Neshoba Conservation Trust about 2 months ago in Groton, and just to see that house packed with people raising concerns about this pipeline sent a strong signal to me about how organized you are and the important questions you're raising. I am firmly opposed to the Kinder Morgan pipeline. It doesn't make economic sense, it doesn't make environmental sense, and what Ken said in his earlier remarks is absolutely correct. You've already had some strong victories with pushing back against the tariff, getting the governor to do this alternative study, and I would just say that I think it's really critical for all of us to stick together on this. It's unclear sometimes where exactly the pipeline go, because I know there's discussions about it perhaps deviating in different areas, and I think it's really critical whether you're from Massachusetts, whether you're from New Hampshire, whatever legislative delegation you're part of, for us to stay united on this, because it isn't just about your backyard, it's about our impact on our carbon emissions, it's about our carbon footprint, it's about economic sense for Massachusetts, it's about environmental impact. And the only way we're going to defeat Kinder Morgan and stop this pipeline is by sticking together. So it's an honor to be here with you this morning.
Thank you for those informative responses. Our next question is, what can our state legislators and local leaders do in the coming months to influence the FERC process? Have you offered any comments to FERC so far? And if so, what issues did you focus on, and what can concerned citizens do to support your efforts?
Start. Okay. No, I have not offered any comments yet to FERC. That this is going to be a process that formally Massachusetts will be a part of, as well as many of the organizations, groups that are represented here today. In terms of the legislature weighing in, there may be ways. FERC has communicated to us through some correspondence with Congressman Jim McGovern, and I want to give a shout out to him because he's been on this issue early and persistently. He has been our main point of contact, I think, between the federal government, between FERC, and all of us in the state legislative delegation and his colleagues in Congress, asking questions about the FERC process, what's going to be considered in that, and while FERC, of course, can't make bold predictions, they have assured us that the actions such as the resolutions that have been passed in all the communities, the issue of Article 97, protection of conservation lands, and whatever positions that the legislature may take, whether it be in some formal way of passing resolutions or committee oversight hearings, investigations that we may undertake in the new year, that those would all be part of the FERC record, and that's encouraging. We know what the record of FERC is intending to approve these sorts of projects, but they have assured us that these will all be heard and listened to, and I think we're going to be very aggressive in making sure they're on FERC's agenda, and that we speak up and let them know how deep the concerns are among the public and the legislative delegation.
Thank you. Again, as with Representative Kulik, I have not directly contacted FERC, but I do want to make note too that one of the first things that I did was engage our federal representative for our district, Congresswoman Donoghue, and she has also a representative here, Mr. Russell Padres, from her office, and I can say that he has been at pretty much everything I think that I have been at since we started working on this, and their help has also been invaluable as far as researching what can be done with the FERC process. And what I also feel that because the FERC process is, as we all have been told time and time again, a federal process, but they are delegates on the federal level of the people in the state. So they do listen to what you say. What we've been trying to do from the state level is engage with them, make sure that the public continues to engage with them, because their input on the FERC process is really the most important tool we have to stop this in any way. But what we have done, I think on the state level, is try to work with the various entities such as the Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, Environmental Affairs, our own administration, which is about to change. And we've talked, I think, to players and other alternatives who have been sort of circling around out there too. NWAC at one point, I have been in discussions with them, but theirs was basically a tariff-based program, so that went away when the tariff went away. I have been in conversations with Spectra, Northeast Utilities, and other entities that have made some proposals, and I have been in contact and pretty much made as much as I could our point, drilled home to the point that it could. Not to use the word drill, but I actually avoid words like drill and pipeline in the pipeline here. But with Kinder Morgan as well. So that's really where I think we can be the most valuable, taking the information from you, getting it to our federal delegations so they can work with FERC, and then working with the state agencies as well as all the players and sort of echoing your sentiments to them. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think and Congresswoman Tsongas and Congressman McGovern were instrumental in sending a letter to FERC as the federal representatives of the communities most impacted by this proposed pipeline, and did cause them to postpone a public hearing that they were maybe trying to do a little too quickly before people had time to review and digest the whole impact. And the entire state delegation has been working with our federal delegation, which is critical when we're talking about the process that a proposed pipeline would, such as this one going through FERC for a review process. So I think it's fair to say that Kinder Morgan has discovered that trying to put a pipeline in a state like Massachusetts is not like any other state in the nation. Kansas or Texas anymore, and so, and I think that's why we're hearing they're diligently trying to amend their pre-filing, and they're trying to amend it, as the word on the street, as soon as next week to make their preferred route New Hampshire. Now, as Senator Eldridge has indicated, that's kicking the can over the border, and the issue is still the same. So, so we are engaging with our federal partners, with our communities, and also trying to keep the pressure on the state agencies, the secretary and her undersecretaries, so that they know this is a big issue. So that's what I've done, and I know my colleagues have done as well.
First of all, just to highlight the strength and unity of the state legislative delegation in opposition to the pipeline, I just want to recognize Representative Jennifer Benson from Lunenburg, who just arrived. And my conversation with Greg Sheldon when I arrived here from Groton, who I know is one of the key organizers of this summit, and I'm just going to repeat what he recommended to me, is that really what we need to do, both legislators and the public, is ask state agencies, DPU, to hold public hearings on this at the beginning of the year on the pipeline, and also to have the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy, perhaps some other committees, to have public hearings and get everybody on the record about why they're opposed to the pipeline. Representative Kulik mentioned sort of the weak standard that FERC has, and of course FERC has ever rejected an energy project anywhere in the country. Mostly what they're looking on is the economic benefit, and so I think it's critical for us to highlight, first of all, the economic benefit and contributions of all this beautiful protected open space and conservation land and wetlands that is so part of the reason we all live in this region, but also that it would add very few net jobs to Massachusetts by constructing the pipeline, and also I think does very little actually to address the real issues with access to energy throughout the state. So I think getting those reasons on the record is a way to really show that the standard that FERC puts out for whether or not they approve or reject an energy project or a gas infrastructure project that doesn't meet that standard. So I think that's what we've got to do in the next few months.
If I could add a couple of comments. Something Senator Donoghue said reminded me about that first meeting that some of us had with Kinder Morgan when they told us about this project. It was a meeting in my office in probably January, February. Senator Downing and Senator Rosenberg and I were meeting with them, and they laid out this concept and had a few, not very good maps. That's what they tend to produce. As they're presenting this, and this is the first time we've heard about it, the three of us as legislators from Berkshire, Franklin, Hampshire counties are all exchanging glances with us, with each other, and raised eyebrows as they go on and on about this great project and all the things it's going to bring. And so one of us said, you're talking about Western Massachusetts, and I don't know if you know the history of big projects in Western Massachusetts, and I represent the town of Donoghue, and so I mentioned some of the things that have been proposed on the Donoghue plains over the last 3 or 4 decades, from twin nuclear power plants to a garbage dump for Boston area, you name it, diversion of the Connecticut River into the Quabbin Reservoir, all kinds of projects like this. And we kind of went through these and said, you're going to meet a lot of resistance to this idea. And the guy from Kinder Morgan said, oh, nothing to worry about. We've built lots of pipelines, and we built one under San Francisco Bay. If we can do it there, we can do it anywhere. And as you can imagine, more curious glances exchanged among us, and the fact that we're all here today proves how incorrect that comment was at the time. But while we're on the subject of legislators, I've been asked a number of times, including here this morning, about legislators, our colleagues who aren't along the pipeline route or in close proximity. And I just want to say that in general, those folks are not really that knowledgeable or engaged in the project. They're engaged in issues in their own districts, and this really hasn't trickled down very well yet. And we're going to need them to be well informed. Part of that is our job, and we'll do that as we get back and begin the next session. And this project moves through the FERC process. But I really want to put a challenge out to all of you. I know most of you are from the region directly impacted by the pipeline. But we need to really expand the effort to educate, inform, and to bring other elected officials around the Commonwealth, no matter where they are, into this issue. And I think the hook is that we're really talking about statewide long-term energy policy for the Commonwealth and for New England. But we need to, if we're going to take legislative action, whether it's in resolutions or hearings or oversight actions, we need engagement from other people in other parts of the state. So if you could use your own networks, whether they're environmental networks or just personal networks, to reach out to folks, have them contact their own elected officials, wherever they are in the Commonwealth, to raise concerns and provide information to our colleagues, that will help us in our work when we get back into session in January.
Our next question is centered around the conflicting narratives that we're hearing about the scarcity of natural gas and the expected spike in prices to kilowatts throughout Massachusetts as a result of that shortage. Has it been proven that increased capacity in terms of our pipeline infrastructure will actually lower future energy costs for our area? Or are there better ways, in your opinion, for Commonwealth to address its energy needs? And I think we'll start with Senator Eldridge this time, just to mix things up a little.
Absolutely, thank you, Beth. I think it's pretty clear, and there's been a number of organizations, such as the Conservation Law Foundation, that have put out material and information suggested what Kinder Morgan proponents are suggesting is not accurate. I think it's critical for us to remember, to realize that I think the real problem we have here is a peak supply problem and not a gas infrastructure problem. It could be solved through other ways, including an increased investment in energy efficiency, other ways of source of energy, including solar and wind, combined heat power. Obviously, and we all know this, is Massachusetts is the leader in the nation on investing in alternative energy, #1 in energy efficiency. And when I think of the amount of money that Kinder Morgan was going to propose for this tariff, imagine that scale of money being invested so that every home is energy efficient. And I think that the suggestion that we're going to build a $2 to $6 billion gas pipeline for what seems to be, again, more of a peak supply problem with natural gas, not only doesn't make environmental sense, but it doesn't make economic sense. So I think pushing back against that narrative that we don't need this natural gas supply, and making the point that there are all alternatives. Obviously, that's what the DOER study is doing, but organizations like ENE and the Conservation Law Foundation, and I know that Shauna Cleveland is here and we'll be talking later, really are able to lay out some of the alternatives that really fit in with Massachusetts' values, our economy, and where state government has moved over the past few years. So I hope we continue on that path, and I think it's important to repeat that narrative, especially as Representative Kulik references to, our colleagues and your sort of neighbors and communities where the pipeline is not proposed, to make sure that they're understanding that this does not make good sense for anyone in Massachusetts.
I think this is one of the issues that the question raises that has been perhaps one of the more frustrating and confusing parts of the narrative around this. We have the proponents, whether it's Kinder Morgan or others, who are saying we need, our pipeline will bring 2.2 billion, cubic feet, 3 billion cubic feet, and they refer to this letter from the New England governors and say this is in support of it. Yet there's a whole lot of facts missed in the whole discussion. We had ISO New England saying there was a shortage or need for 600 million, and so there's the difference in terms of the numbers has been all over the map. But as Senator Eldridge has just said, there are other alternatives that we are engaging in, embarking on, and what is a 100+ year pipeline installation do to those initiatives that we've been working so hard, whether it's wind, solar, hydro. There are other things that we need to, as well as efficiency. So, just as the map had changed so much, it was like you couldn't even follow in the early days, where is this pipeline going? Every time you tried to pin it down, they said, nope, it's going over here, nope, it's going there. And nobody would give you a straight answer. I think this is another part of this whole proposal that has proven to be very frustrating and therefore lacks credibility in its entirety as far as whether there's anything reliable about what's being put there. From a legislative perspective, I think the real issue is we should be focusing on the more sustainable, renewable energy sources in a very concerted way so that we can provide the energy we need and not rely on the experts from the pipeline proponents. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with Senator Donoghue and Senator Eldridge that we do need to be really keeping our eye on the ball with regard to our efforts towards renewable, sustainable energy as our real solution. What I will say with regard to the question as to how these conflicting narratives have come to bring National Grid to their announcement, I would have to say that nothing truly dramatic had happened in the natural gas situation in Massachusetts from last spring to this fall. So I have to think that the media hysteria about this gave really an opportunity for companies like National Grid to hike up the price and say, hey, they told you this was going to happen, but nothing has actually happened. In fact, the prices of gas in some respects have gone down. So why this announcement was made this year, I don't understand at all. But I don't always understand why National Grid does what National Grid does. So I think we do have to keep continuing our investigation, and as Representative Kulik said we're waiting for the results of the low impact alternative study, which should be out in December, which will also assist in sort of analyzing what the need is. And you know, although as Senator Eldridge said, we're leading the nation in this effort to bring about renewable, sustainable energy. We still have a lot of work to do because we're kind of caught a little bit asleep at the wheel here, that somebody was going to come in and say things like your energy costs are 4 times greater than the rest of the country, so therefore we're your only immediate solution. And I think we need to sort of speed up the timeline with our state agencies as far as getting those other energy projects in play so that we don't need this alternative.
Yes.
Agree with everything my colleagues have said. I would just add, it's important to remember that all of you are, well, and us, we are all involved in a campaign here. It's a political campaign, it's a policy discussion, has long-term implications. And it's important to remember that it's a campaign on the other side as well, and it's a very well-coordinated one. I don't think the recent electric rate increases are an accident, that they've happened when they have as part of this campaign to bring additional gas infrastructure here. Other stories about different individual regional gas companies who are restricting new customers, or reducing supply, or saying that they're going to have to shut down any new customers after the first of the year. It's all part, and the newspaper advertisements that you may be seeing. I know in my daily paper in Franklin County, the Recorder, recently there have been a number of full-color advertisements from Morgan about what a wonderful corporate citizen they are in Massachusetts. They've been doing business here for 60 years and are great. They always have beautiful, bucolic photographs of beautiful natural areas. So you may be seeing them around the state, but it is a campaign that it will be incredibly well coordinated, well funded, and we will never be able to match them in dollars, but that isn't really what always wins campaigns. So your continued full engagement and the expanded engagement of others that we've talked about here is critically important. Think about it as a political campaign.
Well, Representative Kulik's discussion about campaigns is a perfect segue to our next question. We recently had an election here in Massachusetts, and we'll be having a new governor take office in January. So my next question for the panelists is, what's your sense of Governor-elect Baker's position on the pipeline project and the Global Warming Solutions Act? And will you be communicating with this transition team to basically educate them on the issues related to this project? And I guess we'll start with Senator Eldridge again.
You know, it's interesting, on Monday night I was speaking to the U.S. Green Building Council Boston chapter, and this very question was asked, is where do you think Governor-elect Baker will stand on energy issues and generally laws like the Global Warming Solutions Act? And I think it's unclear, although I'm